Welcome back, my dear nighttime wanderers. My name is Silas, and I'm your storyteller here at Slumberlight Tales. Tonight, our story begins with a quiet path unfolding across a land that does not remember cities or clocks. It remembers only wind, stone, and the slow, patient turning of the moon. Far from any shoreline or road, a ridge of pale limestone rises out of a sea of grass, and along its spine you walk, with the evening wrapped close around you. The last color of the day lingers low in the west, a faint wash of ember orange fading into deepening blue. Above, the first stars brighten, one by one, as if they have been waiting just below the surface of the sky. The air is cool enough to taste, touched with the scent of dry sedge, bruised clover, and the faint salt of a distant, hidden river. At your side, a small herd of pale, long-furred sheep moves with you. Their wool catches the dusk, turning each animal into a dim, wandering cloud. Stone bells hang from the soft leather thongs at their neck, carved smooth and hollow so that every slow step sets off a gentle chime. The sound runs back and forth through the herd like overlapping ripples on water, never sharp, always soft. The limestone beneath your bare feet still holds the warmth of the vanished sun. Each slab is smooth where generations of herders have walked, edges worn down into curves that fit the soles of your feet. Thin blades of grass grow in the narrow seams, cool and damp against your skin whenever you brush them. You follow the old path along the ridge until it bends and widens, and the land falls away beneath you. There, for the first time that night, the valley reveals itself in full. It lies below like a shallow silver bowl. Tall reeds ring its edges, more delicate than trees, their heads tipped with the strands of pale silk that sway in a wind you cannot yet feel. A ribbon of water threads through the center, dim and colorless from the distance, reflecting only a thin spine of fading light. Even from up here, the valley is different to the grasslands around it. The very air above it seems smoother, as though something vast and careful has brushed the night into order there. This is the grazing place of the moon. The herd senses it too. The sheep slow, nostrils lifting, ears flicking toward the valley. A few of them toss their heads so that the stone bells chime more brightly for a moment before settling again into their usual drifting music. You pause with them, one hand resting on the curved horn of the lead sheep, and look up at the eastern sky. The moon is already climbing. It hangs low but heavy, larger than it appears on ordinary nights. Its light softened by a thin veil of cloud that looks more like breath than vapor. The familiar patterns on its face shimmer, not fixed, but slowly turning, like the faint movement of something sleeping. The sight of it stirs a memory that is older than your own lifetime. Stories murmured across low fires of how, once each turning, the moon dips into the valley and brushes its shining body against the earth. The older herders say the moon does not visit to give or to take. It visits simply because even a celestial body grows weary of the height now and then, and longs to feel the comfortable weight of the world beneath it. The herd presses forward again, and you walk with them along the ridge path. The limestone narrows, then broadens into a natural stair that descends slowly toward the valley floor. With each step downward, the air changes. The dry sweetness of the grasslands make room for a cooler scent. Damp earth, slow water, and the faint metallic tang of stone that has lain in shadow all day. On a small shelf of rock halfway down, the other moon herders have gathered. Their woven shelters form a loose ring around several shallow troughs carved directly into the limestone. Each trough is filled with water drawn from the valley stream and left to settle until its surface lies as smooth as glass. Horn combs and crooks rest on reed mats nearby, their polished edges catching the first hints of moonlight. A few herders look up as you approach, their faces lined by years of wind and glow, their eyes reflecting the pale sky. There is no call, no shouted greeting, only a small lift of a hand here, a slight tilt of a head there. You lead your sheep to an empty stretch of ground at the edge of the ring and begin to unfasten their traveling harness, loosening the straps so they can move more freely when the grazing begins. Far below, the valley is softening from gray to silver. The reeds that ring it have begun to bow in a single direction, their slender bodies bending west to east in a slow, synchronized motion. This is the first sign of their moon route, the invisible track along which the moon will soon travel. You sit on your heels for a time and watch as the reeds sway, their silk-tipped heads brushing one another in the dark, trading tiny sparks of pale light that flicker and vanish. Night insects hum low in the grasses behind you, their song more felt than heard, a faint vibration through the stone. The sky darkens by careful degrees. Stars wake fully, scattered thick across the dome above. The western horizon loses its last hint of color, and the moon brightens in response, as if it's been waiting for the night to belong to it alone. Then the descent begins. At first, the change is so gradual, you notice it only by the shifting of shadow. The bright disk of the moon tilts, lowering toward the valley instead of continuing its usual slow arc across the sky. The air hushes, even the insects seem to quiet, as if listening. Light thickens around you. The limestone terrace glows softly, its pale surface picking up a wash of silver. The reeds in the valley bow further, bending now at the waist, their tips almost sweeping the ground as the moon comes closer. Thin wisps of mist coil up from the water and drift toward the center of the valley, drawn by some slow, unseen pull. You stand and take up your combs. The herd moves when you do, pale bodies flowing past your legs, the chime of their stone bells shifting from the scattered notes into a low, woven chorus. You guide them down the last of the limestone steps onto the valley floor, your feet sinking into cool, damp soil. The river lies a short distance away, a band of liquid shadow, and beyond it, the place where the moon will come to rest. The light is almost level now. The moon's lower edge hovers just above the reeds, enormous and impossibly close. Its surface is no longer smooth from the distance. Shallow ridges and broad basins curve across it, catching light differently so that it seems to breathe. With a final, slow motion, the moon lowers itself into the valley. The reeds bow flat under its touch, then spring back up to cradle its sides. The ground trembles, not with violence, but with a soft, deep settling of the weight finding support. A wide band of pale radiance spills out from the moon's underside and pours across the valley floor, soaking into the grass, the river, the soil under your feet. The sheep surge forward, not in a rush, but with the eager steadiness of creatures coming home to a familiar feast. Their wool, already faintly luminous, flares into brighter glow as they step into the wide ring of light around the moon. Each animal's coat catches fine threads of radiance, thin strands of brightness that cling to the fibers like spider silk touched by frost. You wade into the glow with them. The air close to the moon is cool and almost sweet, like water poured over stone. Sound is altered here. Every movement seems wrapped in a faint echo of itself, as though the valley remembers each step as it is taken. The stone bells at the sheep's neck ring more softly, their tones elongated into gentle, lingering chimes. You choose a sheep and run your hand along its flank. The wool is warm beneath your fingers, thick and resilient. Filaments of moonlight shimmer along the surface, drifting and catching, unable to sink all the way in. You slip the horn comb into the fleece and draw it through in a slow, steady stroke. Threads of light lift free. They gather between the comb's teeth and your other hand, pooling into your palm as a small, coiling tangle. They are weightless, and yet they rest against your skin, sliding over one another like fine liquid glass. Some threads are pure, clean silver. Others carry thin wisps of faint blue or pale gold, like veins of color in translucent stone. You lay the gathered filaments into the reed basket hanging at your hip. They settle here, dimming just a little as they come to rest against one another, as if pleased to lie still. All across the valley, other herders mirror your movements. Pale shapes move in the glow, their shadows stretching long and soft. Sheep wander in slow arcs around the moon, heads lowered as they graze on the light. Combs rise and fall, baskets fill. The steady rhythm of work settles over the valley like another kind of light. Sometimes a filament resists, snagging against a tuft of wool or a rough stone underfoot. When that happens, the strand draws taut, thins, and finally breaks with a sound too delicate to hear, releasing a small bloom of sparks. They drift upward in a loose, spiraling spray, fading as they rise until they become another scattering of stars overhead. You move from sheep to sheep, basket growing steadily heavier, with light that weighs nothing at all. The moon breathes above you, its surface alive with slow, internal tides. Here and there, shallow hollows fill with a thicker, milky glow that overflows their edges in narrow streams, sliding down to the valley floor as slender, falling veils. Where those veils touch the ground, the grass stiffens into glassy blades for a few heartbeats before softening again into ordinary growth. The sheep wander through them, unconcerned, leaving drifting curls of luminous wool caught on the stiffer shoots. After a time that feels both long and impossible to measure, your basket is full. The filaments have cooled while you worked, their brightness subdued to a steady, soft gleam. You carry them to the limestone troughs at the edge of the valley, where the water waits as still as polished stone. Kneeling, you lift a handful of threads from the basket and lower them gently into the nearest trough. The moment they touch the surface, the water stirs. Light unfurls beneath your hands. The filaments loosen, spreading outward in delicate lines that weave and cross, layering over one another until the entire trough glows from within. The light does not leap or flare. It simply seeps into the water, turning it into a shallow basin of liquid moon. When the glow begins to settle, you gather the threads again. Now they cling together more firmly, their shapes defined. They slide from the water in smooth, quiet ropes that coil obediently into your hands. The cooling process has given them structure, the way night gives a shape to the day that came before it. You wind each rope carefully into a skein, wrapping it around your hands and elbow, then easing the looped bundle free to rest on a waiting square of lamb's wool. The fleece cushions the glowing coils, preventing them from tangling or slipping their shape. Once each skein is secure, you fold the wool over it and place the bundle into an open clay jar. The jars are simple, their sides thick and slightly uneven from hand shaping. No symbols are carved into them. Instead, each finished jar receives a single pressed sprig of herb laid across its mouth before the lid goes in. Crescent-shaped leaves for the slender moon, round seed heads for the full, tiny white buds for the hidden dark. You move between trough and cloth and jar until your basket is empty. Then you return to the grazing ring. The moon has shifted slightly, its great body settling deeper into the cradle of the valley. Its light has cooled to a finer silver, shadows sharpening along its ridges. The sheep move more slowly now, their bellies full of radiance. Some of them have already begun to lie down in the softened grass, their legs folding under them, their stone bells coming to rest against the earth. You comb the remaining filaments from the wool, gentler now, careful not to disturb the drowsy stillness. A few lift their heads briefly as the comb passes, eyes catching glints of reflected light, then lower them again and close their lids. In the spaces between your movements, you become aware of the small workings in the valley. Beyond the ring of grazing sheep, moths, as pale as breath, drift near the moon's surface, their wide wings dusted with fine scales that shimmer like frost. Each time they alight on one of the hollows in the moon's face, the glow there brightens, as if some exchange is taking place. When they rise again, their wings leave tiny, glowing prints, like fingerprints on the moon's skin. Near the river, low shapes move along the bank, burrowing creatures with pelts the gray of unpolished stone. They scoop up droplets of condensed light from the reeds and carry them carefully to their hidden dens. The droplets leave thin trails of brilliance behind them, marking the paths to those secret places like threads in a woven cloth. The river itself has changed. What earlier was only a strip of moving shadow now glows from beneath. Light filtering up through the water from its bed. Stones in the riverbed catch that glow and split it, sending soft beams upward that break on the surface as shimmering, broken circles. You watch as one of the older herders fills a small clay cup from the river and holds it up. The water inside is clear, but the light it carries makes it look like molten crystal. After a moment, the herder tips the cup back into the stream, letting the water rejoin itself. Time passes, though the usual signs of its movement feel distant here. The sky remains dark, heavy with stars. The moon holds its place at the valley's heart, though its surface grows subtly quieter. The deep internal tides of its light slow. The hollows that once overflowed with radiance settle and smooth. When the last of the sheep's coats have been combed and the final skein sealed away, you return to the limestone shelf where the jars rest in a neat cluster. Their lids are cool under your fingers. Through the clay, the stored light is only a faint suggestion, but it is there, a slow, patient gleam waiting for the next response. You begin to load the jars into a low wooden sledge. The sled runners are bound with strips of cured hide to help them slide over both stone and soil without catching. Each jar is cushioned with braided reeds and folded wool to keep it from knocking against its neighbors. As you work, your hands move in an unhurried pattern learned seasons ago, a ritual of care that requires no thought. On the valley floor below, the sheep have settled fully. Their bodies form gentle mounds in the grass, scattered in loose clusters around the place where the moon rests. From a distance, they look like fallen pieces of cloud, the faint light remaining in their coats, blending with the glow from the moon. Suddenly, you feel a shift in the air. A shadow touches the farthest ridges first, not one of darkness, but of thinning light. The bright edges of the moon soften, their clarity blurring as though a fine veil has been drawn across them. The chill in the air eases, lifting into a coolness that no longer reaches as deep. You guide the empty basket back to its place, secure the sled's harness around your shoulder, and stand on the limestone shelf, looking out over the valley one last time before dawn. The moon is preparing to rise. The reeds that once bowed so deeply around it now begin to sway upright, shaking free small showers of condensed light that drift down like a silent, colorless rain. The mist gathered along the river thins into long, low ribbons that slip away along the ground toward the valley's edges, as if reluctant to leave, but compelled to go all the same. With a motion as slow and certain as its descent, the moon begins to lift itself from the earth. There's no jolt, No violence, only the soft strain of weight releasing from the valley floor. The flattened grasses beneath it straighten gradually, test each new angle of freedom, and then stretch fully once more. For a moment, the moon hangs just above them, a vast, glowing curve reflecting in the thin river below like a second broken disk. Then it rises higher. Shadows lengthen briefly and then rearrange. The pale radiance that once flooded the valley gathers inward, clinging to the moon's surface as it climbs. The star moths that rested against its hollows release their hold and drift away, returning to whatever sheltered cracks and crevices they favor in the high stone walls. You watch until the moon is once more only a large presence in the sky, its edges sharp against the last of the night. The valley, now without its visitor, lies hushed and altered. Every reed, every stone, every blade of grass has known the moon's touch. The memory of it lingers in the faint sheen on the river, in the softened air, in the quiet hum that still seems to hang just below hearing. Behind you, the other herders begin their own preparations to leave. Sleds are packed, harnesses are fitted. Sheep rouse gently with a touch to shoulder or flank, rise one by one and fall into drowsy lines, bells chiming lazily as they move. You turn your back on the valley and face the limestone stair. The first palest hint of dawn has begun to thin the darkness in the east, though the sun itself is still far below the horizon. The air on the ridge feels different from the air in the valley, higher and drier, carrying the sense of sun-bleached stone and wide grass again. As you pull the sled along the first incline, the runners whisper over the rock. The climb is unhurried. Your feet find the old familiar places without looking. The sheep follow, their hooves clicking softly on the stone when they cross it, then muffled again when they step onto the patches of soil and grass. The bells at their necks sound quieter up here, their notes fading quickly into the open air. At the turn of the path, you glance back over your shoulder. From here, the valley appears once more like a silver bowl set into the earth. No trace of the moon's presence is obvious to distant eyes, and yet you know it is there in every line and curve, in the slight bend of the reeds, in the brightness of the river's narrow band, in the way the air rises from the valley, carrying a coolness that does not belong to the grasslands. Ahead, the ridge stretches on, pale and patient under the brightening sky. You continue your journey along it, sled ropes resting against your shoulders, the weight behind you steady and sure. The jars on the sled are silent, but within them, cold moonlight lies coiled and waiting. The sheep walk in an easy line, their wool dimmer now, but still faintly luminous, as though some part of the night lingers in their coats. The stars fade slowly. One by one they let go of the sky, surrendering their places to the deepening blue of the morning. The moon, high again, follows its familiar path toward the horizon. It carries with it the memory of the valley and the soft touch of reeds against its body, just as the valley carries the imprint of its presence in its soil and stone. And the cycle turns, as it always has. The ridge, the grasslands, the valley, the moon, and the quiet, endless work of guiding light from the sky to earth and back again continue in their own unhurried rhythm, each motion joined to the next like threads in a single luminous skein. And you walk on between earth and sky, with stone beneath your feet and the last traces of moonglow drifting in the wool at your side, following the old path home as the first true light of the new day gathers softly on the horizon.